Okay. So, yeah, you might want to repeat just the last sentence or so. Take two. We are now recording. Yeah.
Welcome everyone to Kahila Community Synagogue and to the Sukkoth Speak Out, where we have invited our premier activist around whom the Homeless Action Committee has formed, call your husband Hankin, and unhoused activists who have now become housed activists. So at our very first Sukkoth Speak Out. So we're really glad to have you back and to hear from these experts about what's going on as it regards this issue. And we are here celebrating in a sukkah. We are celebrating the time when we were wandering, the time of unknowingness in the desert, when we didn't know where we would live. And this is meant, telling this story again and again every year is meant to evoke our empathy and our remembering of what that's like. This holiday is really focused on the impermanence and the transience of housing and how we may be housed today and not housed tomorrow. The line between our communities is constantly permeable, and so must our hearts be.
Okay, thank you, Naomi. And I just wanted to mention that our colleague, our friend Judith Butler has written about this very impermanence. And Jewish Currents picked that up in the website. So life is always impermanent. And we were told that on Yom Kippur, or Rosh Hashanah. That was one of the things we were reminded of. We should not take things for granted. But we are fortunate, we are here. And the first thing we can do is bless our actual presence here in the sukkah, because there's actually a commandment to dwell in the sukkah, and we're doing it, at least temporarily. So that's what we start with. And the formula, I should have cue cards, but hopefully you can follow along. You've probably heard this a few times. So we go Baruch Atah Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai.
Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam.
Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam.
Asher Kichanu b'mitzvotav. It's blessed us with mitzvot.
Asher Kichanu b'mitzvotav.
Vitzivanu commands us.
Vitzivanu.
Yeah, Leishev Ba'Sukkah, to dwell in a sukkah.
Leishev Ba'Sukkah.
Okay, and then because we're gathered together, especially at this moment, most of us have not even been in this sukkah, we should say She'achim. That's the next thing. So again, just hopefully we can just do this together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam. We're blessing God.
We're kind of with them, and they're with us.
This very place. Okay, and then
Been there, I feel
third
like.
custom in the sukkah has to do with the harvest and the species of things, the plants that lived, at least in principle, in Eretz Israel, in the Holy Land, 3,000 years ago, or whenever these customs arose. And there's now the custom of importing these things from Israel, which is a little crazy. I mean, think carbon footprint. So some of us are growing our own etrogim. This is a citron, known as an etrog in Hebrew. And we're going around in California, at least it's not too hard to find a palm tree. And myrtle grows fine here, and so does willow. In fact, everything grows in California, right? So it's not hard to find these things here, but these came from Israel. I recognize this style. Anyhow, there is a blessing for reenacting, or whatever we call it. And I'm actually going to rearrange the camera just a little bit so you get to see the whole deal. I'm going to face approximately east, and I'm holding the citron with the lulav, with the palm and the myrtle and the willow. I hold them together, and I say a blessing, which is the blessing for lifting this lulav. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ruach haolam, asher kichanu mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. And by the way, netilat just means to raise, so it's actually the same blessing you say when you're washing your hands. Netilat yadayim. Now you know that one too. Okay, now the custom is, and this is so like many First Peoples and native customs in this part of the world, it's to bless all the directions. And that's what we do. So we start out with Mizrach, east, Mariv, west, and then Safon, north, Daron, south, and then down, and then Malach, up. And then Rabbi David introduced another custom, which is to go circularly to represent the past and future. That's it. So you can do this. All you have to do is, if you like, and say the blessing, we can do that together. Anyone else want to try? We got two who have an etrog sets here. And of course, I always forget to turn the etrog the other way up when I'm shaking. Yeah, I'm supposed to do that. There's etrogim are considered to be a little bit special because the pistil from the flower is still there.
Yeah.
That's supposed to symbolize fertility, and there are a bunch of things around that I won't.
Thank you so much, Alex. And,
Oh,
and
oh, you
then
does.
serving on the Homeless Action Committee, I serve on the Sacred Land Committee. And for the very reason that Alex mentioned, we are beginning to grow these plants here on this land. We're here trying to acknowledge the land that we're on of the Lishan Ohlone people. And we are in the process of replanting plants that are either native to this area or are from the Mediterranean climate, from significant ritual. So we last year at the beach spot, which is the year of the trees, we planted an intro on the side of our building. So another 6 years till it bears fruit. Hang in there. Right. Thank you so much for bringing us into this sacred space. And it's such an honor to share this space with you, who have shown such tremendous persistence in the face of unspeakable obstacles on the Oakland streets. And I'm so glad that we have with us Holly Husbands Hankin, who runs Love and Justice in the Streets. If you haven't yet done your high holiday tzedakah, it's not too late. At Love and Justice in the Streets, 100% volunteer run organization. Everything goes directly. They're just fun. So, and we also have, rather than me introducing him, I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves. So I'm Naomi Stein, and I serve on the Homeless Action Committee here at Kehila. So I'm a great person to talk to if you would like to get involved in this work. And I'm going to turn it over to John.
Hi, I'm John Janusco. I am one of the organizers of the Wood Street Commons community. I was out there on Wood Street for about 8 years. And now I'm housed.
I want to chat. His pictures.
I know. My name is Lejeya Harper, and I was unhoused on Wood Street for approximately 10 years. And in December, became housed at Core Magazine Homefulness in East Oakland. And I'll talk a little bit about that later.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the member.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, except now I have to turn this device. Okay, well, did I introduce myself? Anyhow, I'm Alex Madonic, and I've been with the Homeless Action Committee since Talia and our other friends got us started. And I'm also part of the Economic Justice Committee, which is well represented here tonight. So long time Kehila member. Actually, not long time, but long enough. 20 years. Long time means you were here from the beginning, right? That's 40 years. Shall I turn this thing around?
You really don't.
Okay, let's, yeah, I don't know. All right, what do we got here? I can't see.
I'm Sigrid.
I'm Shira. I'm Alana.
I'm Beth Weinberger, a longtime member and head of the Greening Committee and the Anti-Death Action Group, which keeps me busy enough, but I have supported your efforts, and I just want to say, since I've got the floor, thank you, Talia, for your work. I appreciate it.
Right back at you.
I'm warm. I used to be on the Homeless Action Committee and started the Cricket Run Committee. I'm Naomi Barron. I'm very happy.
I'm Terry.
My name is Karen Rachels. I was for some time on the Homeless Action Committee. I'm currently on the Economic Development.
Hi, Richard speaking with. the Economic Committee.
I'm Jeannie Finberg, and I'm a member of the Homeless Action Committee and a few other committees. Very much appreciate the work that Talia and the people of that show. And so much more to be done, but have to be a part of it, have to be able to hear it. So we have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of change going on. There's one Supreme Court case in particular that I'd like for us all to learn about from people who are most specifically affected by it. And when we learn about this grant ask, I'd also like to hear about what has happened in light of this Supreme Court case. You want to start us off?
So there was a case in the Ninth Circuit Court called Martin versus Boise that really created on the West Coast a framework for cities in which cities were required to offer shelter before sweeping or evicting communities who are living outside. And this grants pass case, which went to the Supreme Court recently, overturned that. And quote, progressive or liberal identified politicians encouraged the Supreme Court to take this case up, including Governor Newsom and including London Breed. Both of them wrote letters to the Supreme Court asking them to take up the grants pass case and to overturn unhoused people's rights. And that happened. So we are in a new moment right now, which is terrifying. And it's on a national level. It's no longer that we can even just talk locally, but we have to understand that there are all across the country, people who are forced to live outside have now had their rights stripped away. And this is playing out in California in very frightening ways already. Governor Gavin Newsom, you may have heard, put out an executive order really urging all cities across the state to sweep and evict and invisibilize unhoused people. And so that is now happening with the blessing of the highest politician in our state. And that is also happening at local levels. So there's lots of, I don't have information about all of California, but a few examples are Fresno now has a law that they will arrest and jail unhoused people simply for being unhoused. San Francisco is now just stealing people's RVs and vehicles that they dwell in. And in San Francisco, there's a very high population of families with children who are living in those RVs. And so if people are not taking the inadequate and inaccessible shelter that is sometimes being offered, their vehicles are just being stolen. by the government. This is also now in Berkeley. The Berkeley City Council just passed a very new policy that they also will arrest people simply for being poor and forced to live outside. And then here in Oakland, Mayor Shane Tao just made an executive order to enforce sweeping encampments across Oakland. We're also seeing in Oakland, which is the place that I know the best and probably you both do too, that there's a couple of other things that are playing out. Last year, there was an ordinance passed by the city council called the Safe Work Zone Ordinance. And it basically pitted union members and workers against unhoused community members in a really awful and violent way. And it created this policy, which was unanimously passed by Oakland City Council, to allow for the creation at any moment of what they're calling a safe work zone. And what we know is that this is not actually about worker safety. What this is about repression and repressing people's ability to organize, to respond and support, for housed advocates to come and support unhoused people and other unhoused advocates to come and support unhoused people who are being swept. It's not about worker safety, but because they framed it as that, it's confusing. So what it means is that at evictions and sweeps, which happen 5 days a week in Oakland, there was one today at Union Point Park. They begin at 9 a.m. every day. And the city can decide to put up caution tape or just simply to announce, we're creating a safe work zone right here and now. And what that means is that if any of us are standing there trying to assist with whoever is being swept, if we refuse to move at that moment, then we are at risk of arrest. And this has already been being used in the past, over the past several months, but much more, it's being used more often in the past month or so, that a reporter was arrested and unhoused advocates have been arrested and sent to Santa Rita, including the director and founder of Punks with Lunch, which is a very well-established organization. She was helping someone who was having a mental health emergency in the middle of a sweep, and she didn't leave him because she was supporting him, and she was arrested. So this is something that the city of Oakland is using as a way to separate us and to make it harder for us to be physically in support and in solidarity with unhoused people who are being targeted by this state violence. So these are some of the new kind of escalations that are going on right now. It has been horrible, which we know for a very long time, but now people's rights are being taken away and it's impacting our ability to organize and resist and respond. And another thing about what's happening right now in Oakland is that they have really started stealing people's vehicles. In the past few months at sweeps, the city will create these safe work zones, so keeping people out, including the residents whose vehicles are, they belong to, and then just towing. And we call this poverty tow, punishing people simply. So this is happening at sweeps, and Mayor Shane Tao just did her state of the city address to the city council last week, maybe, or in the last couple of weeks. And she mentioned she's going to be escalating the tows. And we know that part of what's happening here is that there is now this culture of blessing criminalization, that from the Supreme Court down to our local mayor, it's now just acceptable and okay to be criminalizing people simply for being forced to live outside. And so that shifts the dynamic for those of us who are privileged enough to live inside, that it's a real responsibility for us to self-reflect and to be talking to our friends and neighbors about what ways we are going to escalate in response and escalate in response for human rights. And so that is the framework that we're living in right now, is a moment in which it's really important that we are all listening to the voices coming from the streets and that we're responding and that we are humbly coming and standing in solidarity and being in solidarity with the people on the front lines, whether that be through our resources, whether that be through our using our bodies or our voices, whatever we have, to participate in saying, no, we will not stand by while this is happening in our communities and right here. So that's the really intense framework, but we're also going to hear from folks about the beautiful resistance that's happening. But that's what's happening.
One thing about the work safe zone is that it really, besides preventing the people that are inside trying to help the people, it really prevents observing what's going on. And I know from just being an observer, not being much of a worker, that when I go and watch some of these horrible sweeps where they take bulldozers and decimate people's homes and their belongings, there's also some really inappropriate and often illegal behavior. And we know from our own experience that sometimes city workers and cops don't behave properly, and particularly to unhoused people who they don't even treat as human sometimes. And I feel like besides interfering with assistance, that it really makes it very hard to see what's going on. And so I feel like, for somebody who, sort of have been on the outside looking in, it's just so much harder to do that. And so I feel like, we need to use our voices even more to decry this kind of activity. Thank you.
Also, something I was just thinking about when you were speaking about the safe work zone is they try to say they set that up for safety for the workers.
Right.
But looking back over the last 8 years, I can't really even recall a time where an unhoused person attacked or even really threatened a worker. And if they were, as they say, angry, they have a reason to be angry because all this stuff is being put into a dumpster in front of them. They can't stop that. So, so I just see this also with the Grants Pass verdict. One of the things they said was that it wasn't cruel and unusual punishment to move people, to wake people up, to even go as far as that you can't sitting in a park bench resting. You could be on a lunch break and just resting, but if you looked homeless, then you might be at risk of getting arrested. So you definitely couldn't lay down in a park like people do and have picnics and stuff. You really have to be conscious about your behavior, what that looks like to them. But
I was just gonna say that, my first experience with the safe work zone was when they broke. I mean, we haven't been here in 2 years. The last time we were here talking about Wood Street, but since then they have completely demolished our community out there. And I just remember they gave me an option. Either I could go to one of their tough sheds and they would take my whole RV and completely destroy it, or I could be moved way to the Coliseum, which that's what I took. I was just in shambles, and then being, separated from that community. Now there's a fence around it and there's all these police, and you're not even allowed to go back in where you feel safe. It was just very alienating. And at the time, just my personal experience, I went through a very rough, not suicidal, but just feeling very alone and just not knowing what to do. And that time of just feeling separated, not knowing where the medical care was out there. And even when they moved my RV to the lot, they didn't let me in for 3 days, because they didn't know who I was. And I'm like, everything I own is in there. And it's just very, it's like they have no compassion. I think one more thing I just wanted to say about these safe work zones is the money that the city of Oakland is wasting. The city of Oakland, for instance, about a month ago, we were there supporting a sweep, and there was two small tents. They had 30 police officers. They had a big scrub brush bulldozer thing. They had a huge garbage truck. probably about 10 city workers. They had CHP out there. Then they had the advocates from Operation Dignity out there. And yes, sometimes they do use caution tape, but what they've been using is fencing. And so that costs money. And with all that money, and I don't know correct numbers, but it's got to be in the thousands. When John got housed, it was $1,000 for him to completely move in. They could be housing 50 people a day in their own, permanent housing versus putting them in these tough sheds where they're promising people rapid rehousing, which is a lie. So I think also just pushing back on you all as taxpayers, as housed, to keep the city accountable. Like it doesn't cost that many police officers to go out there and all those salaries when we could be using that money to house people.
We had one thing piggybacking off of that. So we had a press conference, Chinese press conference, from where the eviction was at. And a number that somebody had told me that looked around and stuff was about $1,800 an hour for the eviction. So we were almost $20,000 a day for an eviction. We're looking at a grand every week, $400,000 to $500,000 a month to do these evictions. And I think I spoke at that press conference and just wondered, like, instead of 30 police officers, why don't we just knock that number down to 15 and bring 15 housing navigators? Why don't we use the money for some positive influence to come into the community or into these evictions and actually hopefully provide or have access, give people access to some of the services, because it's very threatening when you have 30 police officers in front of your tent and a fence and 2 dump trucks and 15 DPW workers and, police cars surrounding the area and stuff in yellow tape. That looks like a crime scene. So in response to it, people are like, I get nervous when I go to support people. I feel like, wow, this is really intense for tents. We're talking about moving some tents. We're not talking about a hostage situation in a bank. We're talking about moving some tents. So it's very excessive what they're doing, and they're wasting everybody's money.
Yeah, on the money, their city auditor issued a report, this is like 5 or 6 years ago. But they said that the city was spending $70 million on the sweeps, and I don't think it counted the police numbers. It just counted the internal housing committee, and also that there was no tracking or accountability, and they couldn't show from spending all that money in 1 year that they found housing for a single person, not one. I mean, and this is an independent government agency that issued the report, and the response, I thought there might be some action by the city after that, and they did change staff, but it's only gone from bad to worse.
I think I heard about that report about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. There was another report, I think, that sort of incorporated that one into it. But it was for the state of California. The state of California has spent $22 billion. Just the state of California on homeless abatement, homeless, whatever they spent the money on. And that's a big issue that you spent $22 million, and the crisis is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So obviously what you're doing is not working. You need to rethink this whole thing.
Yeah, but do they? No.
You had a question?
Yeah, it was just something that John said that was making me think of like what looking homeless means, right? And it just becoming another way for police and other state violence to target Black and brown folks. And that just being like such a clear, like, right, I'm resting in a park with my picnic, I'm gonna be fine, but like that's not the same for my other neighbors. And it just, creating more and more ways to criminalize and invisibilize, and it's great.
And that's actually one of our goals right now. So once they broke up Wood Street, we decided that we needed to push for permanent housing solutions for people. We needed to focus our energy in that way, because I mean, for me, when I went into program and was then inside again, and access to bathrooms and electricity and good rest, I was like, oh my gosh, my people are dying out there. They're suffering. they need to feel what it feels like to be human again. And so, so we, actually established ourselves as a 501c3 now. We have our own office. And, yeah, we've been doing lots of events. We just had our 3rd annual bike ride to Sacramento, where we spoke to legislators that sit on the Assembly and Senate Housing Committee about our lived experience of being unhoused and how the executive order has affected us as a community. And, you know, we give back, like we feed people, we pick up food every weekend, and also just being there, being supportive, doing the extra, caring, talking to people. And we're also like working with architects. I mean, John can talk about that. I don't really want to talk about that part. But the major thing is like, there's been solutions. There's been solutions to homelessness for a long time. And since day one, since we started meeting with Caltrans saying, let us work with you to clean up our community, trying to make different solutions, different strategies, but they still, you know, keep us down here. And so what I was gonna say to that is that one of our main goals right now is we're trying to change the image and the narrative of what the root cause of homelessness is right now. When people look at homeless people, they're thinking, oh, we're criminals and we're drug addicts and we're lazy and this, that, and the other. But when you look at statistics and reports, it's actually only 16% that are unhoused because of substance abuse. 13%. 68% is because they couldn't afford the next month's rent. And we know why that is. That's because the housing cost in California is ridiculous. And so we're really trying to also make the connection with people that are housed, with people that are housed, insecurely housed, and letting them know that, you know, we need each other in this fight, because it's fighting against the capitalist society that really needs to change, not continuing to demonize and be punitive to people just because they lack resources at the time.
So I guess I'll talk about that. So there's like fire talk. So there's a couple of solutions that we're working on. One of them is a bigger long-term vision on hopefully maybe 22 acres that's in West Oakland. There's another plot of land that we just sort of discovered over by the airport. Used to be a hotel. That's like 300 and something rooms, if I'm not mistaken, you know, double beds, you know. They just closed down in August. The lease was up for the last 50 years. They had a lease, but the lease was up. So it's basically abandoned. Also heard that they couldn't keep up with the rent or the lease on it. So they abandoned it, left it. So it's another piece. But there's a bigger term vision, sort of overwhelming when we talk about it, because there's so much we have to go through to be able to acquire things. City of Oakland, power to be able to sell some residents. But there are so many visions that can help get people off the street and into a safe environment. And those are the lots that are empty, sitting empty in Oakland. If they're being self-governed. Rewinding a little bit to the cabins are pretty bad. And the reason why they're bad, I want people to know, it's not necessarily the size of the cabin. It's the people that run the cabin. It's a lack of love that they give or show to the people that are in the cabin. They're there to babysit, basically, and that's it. Just to watch people and make sure they don't, you know, I don't know, kill themselves. Yeah.
The cabins are the city funded shelter program that you see across Oakland, like the little top shed.
Yeah, the tough shed. It's the service providers that provide the service, like BOSS, at these shelter programs, and a lack of services there. People are basically in this box, in this room, all day with nothing to do. There's nothing provided for them to be a part of, to, you know, classes maybe, some sort of, work program, volunteering, in involvement in the community around the area where they live. They're just there in the cabins. They don't cook their own meals. They don't do anything except sit there because there's nothing for them to do. So what we've been thinking about as a proposal, if getting a program design of what people would do every day, you know, the responsibilities of people being in the cabins, or responsibilities of, you know, we have an idea for one having RVs, cabins, and tents. But everyone there would be involved in something besides just being in their tent, their RV, or their cabin. A work assignment. They would have access to education. And this is all like at a temporary interim site. Thing is that you can't wait until housing is available for them to start working on their healing. They have to be able to start working on their healing where they're at. And that's a big component of what's going on that's missing, is that there's no healing where you're at. So a lot of us are put into an apartment, thankful for that, but you're also isolated when you're put in that apartment, and usually put somewhere that's not where you're from, not where your encampment was at, not where all the people, your network, your lifelong medical, you know, your services are at. So now you're somewhere in East Oakland in an apartment with a door you can close, and you're by yourself, and nothing's changed in your life. There's been no healing, and you're disconnected from everything that was keeping you alive. So we need to make sure that at these shelters that we're engaging with the residents there and getting them ready to be able to handle being in a place almost by yourself sometimes and in a new environment. The longer term vision is, we call it a community, self-governed community, with new buildings, you know, small, tiny homes, RVs, but just a bigger version of the smaller interim housing. There would be the one that we were talking about that Mike Pytok, an architect, was working on with us over the last 8 months now, and came up with these beautiful designs, architectural plans for 11 acres of a 22-acre piece of land. You know, there's a main street. 7 of the main street buildings would be small businesses for people that were at that capacity where we could help nurture and help grow their small business. Behind their small business would be a little housing and then a garage. They would keep all of their supplies for their business. There would be an educational campus on this on the property where people would go to school, get their GED, possibly learn some sort of trade. You know, there would also be teacher housing, so teachers that also taught at the facility would be able to live there, probably at a lower cost. That's all to be discussed because, you know, in politics and development and stuff, they want money some sort of way, squeeze out of you. So that's all stuff that we're in conversations with. And then some first-time buyer homes, there'd be a shelter, overnight shelter there, long-term 90-day shelter with a drug and alcohol treatment program. In essence, it would be set up like, if anyone's come to Wood Street, it'd be like Wood Street, but just 2.0, you know, upgraded, you know, professionally in a different manner, but with the love and care that, you know, the community gives us. We're trying to find a way so that all of the community can be involved in giving that back to more people so they can enjoy what we enjoy. Because the only reason why we're sitting here, honestly, is a lot of it because of this community here and all of the support that you guys have given us and believing in us and showing up for us. And there's other communities out there who have done the same thing, and we've networked and, you know, made relationships with them. But this is how it's going to end up working. This is what needs to be able to grab hold of a bigger audience, I guess you could say, you know?
And this is, and what you're talking about right now, this is public land that exists right now in Oakland and is empty and could be being used immediately for these solutions.
And the architect is a very well-established, respected person who's won a bunch of awards.
He's actually retired now too.
Yeah.
He's been taking us around to different places where they have shelters and housing and stuff like the Hope Center, Catholic Charities, and Santa Rosa, and they're showing us how they did it. And he retired, but he said that this is his mission. His legacy is to make sure that us, we get what we want, what we need, he's not gonna stop until it happens. So we have a
Right.
really good ally.
Me too,
Oh,
but
sorry.
probably not everybody is aware of that, wasn't very intimately connected with Rick Street, is that they had a whole community there. And, it wasn't perfect. Obviously, they didn't have the resources that they needed, but people looked out for each other. They cooked meals, they, noticed when somebody didn't come out of their area for a long time. And so there was a lot of services that were not paid for by the government, but were informally created by that community. And when they got swept and they got scattered, they lost all that. And that's sort of one of the craziest things about our system is, and with mental health, they're saying, oh, people need to come to us now that they're not, an encampment. They need to come into the building and make an appointment. We can't come out on the street. And I mean, it's like mind-boggling that, that they're that inflexible. And so, I'm just so excited to hear this vision and that you're working on it and anything I can do to help, I'm in.
I just wanted to know, you have a 503 now. What is the name of the organization?
Wood Street Commons. Well, Wood Street Commons.
Great.
We kept the
Okay.
name. We just keep just growing the name. Since so many people know it, it's actually a sort of, there's so many articles and publications and interviews that are out there on the internet and stuff. And people have actually come, a couple of journalists have come from, I think it was Germany and maybe Switzerland over the years when we were there. So we just sort of want to keep that name because it holds so much love within it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a beautiful vision and inspiring and wonderful. The spirit alive through all this going on. So the question I have is when you talk about it in public land, what are the steps? I mean, how does one get access to
That-
build and create this grassroots vision?
It depends on what the
Money.
public,
Money.
I mean, money.
Period,
And not just money though, because even like builders and companies that want to develop in the city have trouble and it takes them years to get through the red tape. So you can imagine when it's not a traditional plan, how many more obstacles they're gonna throw
A lot
up.
of it has to do with the 22-acre piece of land that we want. There's also two recycle centers that for the last 10 years we're supposed to be moving over there and out of West Oakland because of the air pollution, because all the neighbors, want better
Right.
air. We agree with that. We agree with that. One of them is entangled right now in a little scandal with the mayor and money, I guess.
A little.
Yeah, a little scandal. The other one is slated, if I'm not mistaken, from the last thing that I read, the Neighbors Association. I think they should be there 2030, but the problem with the land is that it needs to be remediated. And we're talking about $15 million to remediate that land. And that's what's been holding up a lot of the progress, or even us being able to maybe negotiate a piece of that. A part of the land, 8 acres of the land, was allocated 2 times by the city council members for low-income housing, but for some reason, that just sort of that decision keeps getting overlooked, and it keeps falling back on the land needs to be remediated, and that needs to be done first, and that could be a 4-year process, which should have been started a long time ago. Another part is like developers, they're looking at the same land that we're looking at. We see some land that could really house some people. They see some land that can house some people for some money. And we're not trying to house people for money. We're trying to house people because it's the right thing to do, and they need a place to be. Because without a foundation, you can't do anything else. So, and then it's all the boom, that the cities, the fighting back and forth between politicians. It's not even really about us and the right thing. It's just about their egos and not wanting to give or take a little. I mean, we try to really promote the vision like a win. I tell people this is a win-win situation. We tell people it's a win-win situation for everybody. You think if we were allocated, allowed, or given a chunk of land that size, 22 acres, or even out there in East Oakland, the amount of people that we could get off of the street in a year and in a place that even if it wasn't permanent for them, just temporary and in an environment that we talk about, how that would affect our city, because everybody, and no disrespect to my unhoused people, but you know, we don't want people in front of, you know, parks, and we don't want them in front of your business, you know, we want everybody to be able to survive, you know, it's the right thing. And so with opening up that land, that means that we can get people from in front of those places into a place where they're actually being taken care of, meaning your business is gonna start thriving again, hopefully, meaning, you know, the streets are cleaner, not because the unhoused people are dirtying them up, because people illegally dump where unhoused people live, and then they take the blame for it. So there's this domino effect by allowing us to have land, or lease land, or just, you know, allocating some land to us and getting out of the way and letting us do what we know how to do. Even though we don't have that type of development experience, we do have people that are supporting us, that like Mike Pyatok, 40 years, architect firm, has buildings all over this place. We just need, you know, something, while I'm thinking about it really quick, a way that people here could, you know, advocate for it is by actually emailing our Mayor Chantal and also our city administrator, Justin Johnson, and asking that question. You have, the evictions are going, so where do you expect people to go? It doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense. And the more they get questioned on what they're doing from housed people, you know, the more pressure is gonna be put on, the more they're gonna worry, like, this is not just advocates or some unhoused people that organize and stuff that are asking these questions. Now we're asking the question, the people that are asking the questions are the people that, you know, are paying tax, or owning property, and, you know, the people that vote for us right now. I want to get reelected, I'm gonna answer these phone calls. So the more that we can get people to put pressure on them, that I think, it's not gonna get easier, but
Will help.
yeah, it'll help.
Something we can do.
Yeah.
And so just to catch us up, they've taken us through evolution of a community from the Wood Street, and just to say where the Homeless Action Committee has been in alignment with this is when they were in Wood Street, there was a real intentional community with, and ways that they were in community with many other people doing mutual support, and we were part of that, creating a closet there. And then when that community was threatened by Caltrans and the state, and we got a lot of folks helping with the legal part to delay that. Finally, unfortunately, that happened, and they went to cabins. Many people went to cabins, and the Homeless Action Committee managed to have a community closet in one of those cabins for a time. But we were eventually dissuaded from collaborating with the city, by the city. And now we have begun a partnership with the Islamic Cultural Center, where we were serving an area at 23rd and Martin Luther King, which itself has been swept. So, you know, I know that a lot of times when housed people hear like a beautiful vision, they think, well, how does the money for that happen? The money for that happens by us diverting money from chasing people around the city where there's no place to go, and divert it to actual solutions that are being visioned by the people who are living on. So I just wanted to mention how it was the Homeless Action Committee has been weaving in and out through the evolution of what's been going on with the city government and with this community. And I saw some houses, some hands up.
Make sure that Ligia
Yes.
got to talk about.
Sure. Would you like to talk about that now?
Yeah, I'll just do it really quickly.
Okay.
But so where I was given the blessing to move into last December, it was an organization called Poor Magazine, who actually helped me get into a drug program last June, and then told me, don't worry, we got you. When you get out, you can be housed. Because I was like, now I'm clean, I can't go back, you know, to my RV, like I'm scared, you know. And they were like, don't worry, we got you, you know, as long as you stay clean, it's good. And so where I live at now is a beautiful community. 10 years ago, Poor Magazine bought a house on a little plot of land in East Oakland. And they lived in that house for a few years while they were building they look like 4 townhomes. They built it, we built it. And now it houses 21 people, rent-free forever. And my children can live there, my children's children can live there. And we have a school. I know, my daughter's moving in with me in the next month. We have a school there, Decolonize Academy, where it's a homeschool base. And we have about 12 students this year that can't normally, work in a normal school setting. And so they also go to school there and they learn about being a revolutionary and fighting the system, and they do traditional Aztec danza classes, and that's one of the components. We have a little tiny small farm, so we have a goat and some chickens there, and we also every Thursday we give back to about 200 families from around East Oakland, a lot of elders and a lot of indigenous Mayan and Guatemalan families. We give away free diapers. We give away hot meals, we give away groceries and fresh vegetables and things like that. And it's not like a program in the sense of sober living, but they definitely want us to continue to heal ourselves and then heal our community. And for a magazine, and we don't get any grant funding. We don't pay rent, but we pay a contribution, which is like $300 to help with the Wi-Fi and the electricity and things like that. So we rely on, I'm gonna use Tiny's words, radical redistribution of wealth hoarders' money. That's Tiny's word. But we have, I've just brought a little bit flyers to say this is our Bank of Community Reparations, and we support mothers with paying their rent. We support people in the community that might need emergency support with cars and things like that. It also supports the Homefulness Project. Along with the housing, we also have a radio station, KEXU 96.1. We have a Poor Press News where we write books and magazines and media. We're always collecting stories of folks that are unhoused and letting us be the voice and sharing our stories out there. And also really exciting is that we are working on Homefulness 2 now, which will, right now we're in the process of raising money for the solar system because this land is gonna be ran completely off grid, and it's gonna be free for unhoused families. And so this was for our event to raise money for the solar, but there's a QR code right there if anybody wants to help do that. This is an old event, by the way, and it's in Spanish, but if you do
The QR code is.
the QR code, you might not understand the words, but the QR code, the important part. Anyways, just wanted to say, like, for me, this community has been important because, like I said, I have 18 months clean now, and I wouldn't been able to do that if I didn't have a community that continued to support me, that understands the trauma. Everybody who lives at Homefulness was unhoused at one point. We have grandmas there and we have babies there. And so it's about like loving. No, this is me when I get to talking and stuff. Yeah, but okay, I'm sorry. But yes, so and if you ever wanted to come and check it out, we have garden there. And it's just a beautiful community. You could always come and check out Porn Magazine. We also give away clothes. So even if folks had donations that they wanted, every Thursday is our sliding scale cafe. That's what we call it. So yeah, you can look it up, pornmagazine.org. Yeah.
And as Stu was mentioning, if you have things to share, we have a bin outside of the sanctuary. And it's from there that we make distributions to the Islamic Cultural Center and directly out the street to Omni Commons, which is the office space that they were set up, and now we're gonna have to go your space. So, so you don't have to worry about figuring out how to get it to folks, you just put it in the bin out by the sanctuary and take care of it, period.
Can I say just a couple more words about what we've been doing with the interfaith, with the Islamic Cultural Center of Northern California. So we've been partners with them for many years now in the faith trio. And this also includes Montclair Presbyterian Church and a couple other congregations. But we've been working much more closely with them recently because we couldn't store donations here at Keeley anymore once we reopened the school after the pandemic. And there's several of our volunteers here, Laura and John, who helped us gather donations and take them out. When in the beginning it was to Wood Street, but now it's going out to the Commons or to the Islamic Cultural Center down in Madison. And from there, we take them out in the street. And here's Mama Suzanne Herbod. I don't know if you can see this picture very well, but make sure it gets up on the Kihila Facebook page. In fact, it's already there.
Oh.
Yeah, because we've been going out for months now, several months. And Naomi's been out, I've been out. There's a woman named Leah Orloff who's assisting her, who's also a member of Tequila.
I go out
And of
for
course,
every
Amy
Wednesday.
has been doing this work, also helping with meal preparation on Wednesday mornings. So there's a lot of opportunities to pitch in Wednesday mornings meal preparation and Friday morning, and also sorting donations. And Friday morning is going out.
And so if you would like to join us for sorting of clothes or distributing of material goods, Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 to noon at the Islamic Cultural Center. We also we're meeting less and less frequently, more and more efficient. So exciting reasons to get with us. So you can reach us at unsheltered@synagogue.
And please put out to, so you know, it's particularly men's clothes, men's sweaters, men's sweatshirts, men's jeans. We have no men's clothes at all. We have basically a whole room.
I've got a bag.
I have a box in my car too.
And can wear them.
That's exactly right. Men never let go of them. Yeah.
One of the ways that sometimes, and then 75% sales. Like jacket. Study.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about it.
Karen, you had a question.
So I'm assuming that the land itself poison.
Yeah,
Yes.
contaminated
So
every
my
day.
question has to do with, so you have, and there are people, I think, that Berkeley, they do studies of, with the train link.
Yeah.
Discovering. Toxic, thank you. And so, do you have a connection with, is anyone doing it about that? Do you have a connection with someone who might? And do that?
We met with a developer, the first one that Mike Pye talked, set up a meeting with, the first one, let's say about 8 months ago, maybe about 8 months ago, it was the first one. And he was okay guy, he reminded all of us of a used car salesman, sort of sleazy, but probably get the job done. You know, he was really, energetic and wanted to, get involved, but it was at that moment, the beginning of it, we really didn't, we didn't consider, because we're actually looking at that moment, we're looking for somebody as a developer that wanted to like build, and he didn't really have the experience that, what Mike said, really the experience of low income housing, experience that Mike at that time thought we needed. But the conversation got brought up again. I talked to Mike Pye, about, we need to pull him back in, because if he really could get the money and knows where to get them, because he felt like he knew where to get the money from when it comes to, the grants and government and stuff. If he knows where to get the money from, and we have a conversation with him, and then he says he can get that money to do the remediation, he said he'd get it done in a year, then maybe we could be able to go to the city of Oakland and talk to them and say, you guys don't even have to be involved in remediating or worried about it. We have a way to get the money, the funding and stuff. So it's something that gotta remind Mike about. I wanted to like have another conversation with this guy and see if he was for real and he get this done, because that's money for him in his pocket. He knew where to get the money to do this. But yes, that's the one route, and the other route would take double that time, a more natural, like 10 years really, a more natural route with specific plants and stuff. But the beauty of it is that doing, let's say in a perfect world, we were to get the whole 22 acres, remediate the first 11 acres the fast way with this guy, Baptiste, and then the other 11 acres is left for part of the program so that people can learn more about agriculture and they can learn about plants and stuff. And that way we can bring in even more people, people that support us out there that are in the agricultural world, plants and stuff. That gives them an opportunity to have 10 years worth of, growing and planting and stuff, and people learning about that. So that also adds another element to the overall program for people to be involved in. So,
Also just,
So this might be a really naive question, but he's talking about money and money and money. He is spending millions of dollars chasing people around for no apparent ending. What is the politics behind spending it on that rather than what you're talking about? Because something there is really missing for me. It's like, it seems sort of like a no-brainer,
Yeah.
but it's not happening. So I'd like to understand if you have some perspective on like, what is it? What's going on?
they still, just like before, when we were on Wood Street and there was sort of this, treatment like children, like, oh, because we build some houses and stuff, they're playing house, this is just, they still don't completely, I feel like, take us seriously. They don't, maybe they don't want to be embarrassed by us really, outshining them, I guess, or being able to come up with the solution, because the solution is here. We have the solution, and we have the solution. It's not perfect, but we have a solution that's going to be more humane than what they're doing. And that's the same question we ask when we go to the city council meetings and when we're in arguments with them, or, it's sort of like, why don't you guys have us at the table? Why aren't we sitting in front of them? And we tried to have a meeting with the mayor numerous times. Went to her inaugurational ball when she got elected. We went there and, danced with her, and, she said her assistant said they were gonna reach out to us, and they never did. And we would run into them at city council meetings and town hall, throughout the city and stuff. And the question was, and then there's always that diversion, that pre-recorded in their brain, the pre-recorded that basically covers everything but never covers anything.
It's politics too. And it's non-profiteering there, and what we call poverty pimping. It's like they're giving the money to these organizations like Operation Dignity, that was like the main grantee for a long time from unhoused money, only really dealt with vets for a long time. And so when someone like me or John, who's never been in the military, tries to receive services, that's out of their scope of what they do, beyond just giving out,
Peanut butter and jelly
old molded ass food. But
And there's no accountability.
there
for
isn't
those grants
accountability,
to those organizations.
and like Boss is another big organization building opportunities for self-sufficiency, which ran the community cabins. But like John said, like they were getting all this money, they should have been giving us case management services, but they won't. And there's nobody, again, holding these people accountable. to what they're doing with the money. And unfortunately, I mean, that is in a perfect future, because we have 501c3 status. We would love to be one of the organizations, you know, governing one of these lands, but it's politics. And so, and also it's easier for them to just, you know, sweep us and push us to the side than actually like invest in us being self-sustainable for a long-term future.
But wouldn't it look better theoretically if they actually had a solution? That they were actually working? I mean, that's what I don't quite, I can't quite put together. It's like what they're doing isn't working. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. There is a solution.
Because homelessness is a colonizer scam.
Like the coffee union is really.
They're making money off this.
There's-
The young lady in the back of the red, I forgot her name, she had her hand up.
Yeah,
Beth,
and what I was
sorry.
gonna say is
Sorry.
there's no accountability for years.
Yeah.
We taxpayers have passed all kinds of measures supporting not just millions, but billions to solve the problem. And none of those measures have adequate accountability. What you're talking about is not that it looks bad for them politically that they haven't solved the problem. What's happening is that a lot of people are making money off of not solving the problem.
Ashe.
And somebody needs to get a good investigative journalist looking at what the money trail actually looks like and exposing it before we
Well, I
can
don't
get
know, the audit
anything
report
accomplished.
exposed it, but
But
they
the-
don't
What?
care.
But it's not
Yeah.
covering,
Yeah.
no one's exposing how much money is going to police. And in Oakland and across the country, but in Oakland, we know it's a massive amount of money, and the sweeps are, they're sending out sergeants, they're sending out people on overtime, they're dumping money into police who are standing around doing literally nothing. Except for sometimes arresting advocates and.
No, but it's such a bad time because people are so afraid of crime now that they think we can just throw more money at the police and it's gonna go away. And obviously we know it doesn't work that way, but
And-
that seems to be the solution, and they're dumping incumbent people, recalling and so forth because we're not hiring enough police officers.
Doesn't keep us safe.
It
I
doesn't.
think you gotta
doesn't
think
keep
outside
any-
the box when we're talking about, like, if people were to be healthier, to be in a better space, and there was less homelessness, there's something they're gonna need. I don't know exactly what that is, but there's something they're gonna need. Money's gonna be needed for something. And so you have to look at like, well, the money is being spent now could be being spent for something else, but there will always be a reason for money to come in, for a grant to be written, for the city to need money to continue to support something. Right now, they don't see what the alternative could be. They're getting all this money, people are getting these salaries, you know, nonprofits are, ooh, you know, out there claiming they're saving the day, they're helping people, in actuality, they're not. But there could be something else. We have to figure out what that alternative is that we could put on paper and say, if you don't spend it on this, you can spend it on this, that whatever that is a healthier society. Because there also, just getting people housed or intern and stuff, there's not an end to that. You know what I mean? You can't just say, we want everybody in a box.
Right.
What else do you want for the people of Oakland, Mayor? What else do you want for people, what else besides just them being in a box? There has to be something else. So if it's a healthier life, then you have to invest in a healthier life, you know?
I have an idea for some short-term funding. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay.
Maybe through my- Yeah. Yeah.
So it's about 6:45. We've started to lose the light. We want to make some time also for people to have informal conversations and eat some food and like that. But before we wrap up, I want to check in and see if there are any questions that seem for the whole group. We want to, thank you, last opportunity. And then I wanted to remind people about how you can take action. You can write to us at unsheltered@synagogue.org to join our meetings and our planning process about how to be best allies. You can show up on Wednesdays and Fridays at the Islamic Cultural Center from 10 to 12 to help us take out material goods, sort material goods. Let's now hear from our speakers about the 3 different organizations that we will be supporting. We've got Love and Justice, we've got the Poor People
Poor
Magazine,
magazine.
and we have on the Commons.
Wood Street Commons.
Wood Street.
Wood Street
Justice are
Commons.org.
That's
There
right.
you go.
WoodStreetCommons.org. I'd be confused with Omni Commons because that's
Where our
office
office.
is.
Yeah, that's our office.
Are there websites for all 3 of your organizations? that
Yep.
People who look.
Yes,
learn
there
more about?
is. Ours is,
WoodStreetCommons.org.
it's there. It's a little new and we're gonna, it's a little new,
It's
but it
great.
will give you the general information and direct you to, a donating page and a small history. But it's in the making, but yes, there is a
He
place.
even looked at the website. It's
Oh my
great.
God.
It's wonderful, okay? It has a documentary that's gonna be released next year.
Yep,
About, yes, Ren's, a documentary,
yeah,
the
yeah.
visuals on there.
yep.
Yeah,
There's
and
a
then
little-
poormagazine.org, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. And
And Love and Justice in the Streets.com.
Period.
loveandjusticeindustries.com.
So that was woodstreetcommons.org.
Poormagazine.org.
Poormagazine.org. And loveandjusticeinthe.streets.com. Ampersand or AND?
And
And on December 7th, you guys gotta mark your calendars for our 5th annual Wood Street Christmas party that hopefully is gonna be at Tamarack. I love doing parties.
Great. Let's have a round of applause for our speaker.
So, if you want to get specifically engaged in terms of information, you can request to be put on our Slack channel. Everything, you'll see a floor of information and a sense of there. So that's a really useful thing. I think to just start to feel your heart beating with from heaven.
And some people, God bless you. And so if you brought some socks or some wet wipes or whatever, we have a container at that table in the front, but it will get it out to folks.
You know, if there was if we went around and introduced ourselves at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
I'll just quickly say, my name is Erica Sigel. I'm connected to Temple Sinai in that on Mondays, on a rotating basis, we and I deliver homemade meals to 84, usually 84 individuals all around the city. We deliver water, we drop off water, sanitary hygiene kits. Sometimes we have clothing. And I tell you this by way of saying, I've only been in Oakland for 5 years. I don't exactly understand how the interfaith organizations find out about each other, how they mesh, how they overlap, duplicate. It became the directive, I don't know if the name like St. Albert means anything to you guys, but I don't even know if she got this started. It's based at the First Presbyterian Church. Lots of Temple Sinai members go and prepare the meals on Monday mornings. There are sandwich meals on Sundays. People come to the church to pick up meals, be they sandwiches on Sunday or full meals on Monday. And in addition to people coming to the church, we take these meals out. Our intention is not to go to the encampments, which yes, don't exist anymore. Our intention is to catch the individuals on the street who are so disenfranchised that they probably can't see straight. There are people we go to repeatedly. There are people we can't find anymore. I was out on the streets today and a whole cluster. There were 3 or 4 of those people with the whatever gone. I don't know where they are. Anyway, I want to know where the resources are. I haven't done I feel so badly. I haven't done the homework. Be able to say, you can get a shower here between this and that hour on these days. You can do your laundry there.
Well, that's what the sheriff that you came, because the homeless action committee did create a resource document and. we have- Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not
The
sure
challenge
we
that-
have that.
So
Shower
I think we can wrap up the Zoom meeting and then just go on informally. So just thanks to the folks who joined us online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, bye.
There you are. Victoria.
Bye.
They had the camera on.
I'm shocked.